right? Is this recording? Wow, I'm such a professional. Repetsa, my dreamer believers and adventure seekers. Season 8 happened, Voltron is done, and I'm gonna talk about it because that's what I do. I like to chat about things that no one cares about. Really honestly what my channel's content is. I do have one thing I'd like to say, and it's that I was right! I got what I wanted! Look, I know I'm psychic, but I can't predict the future, but like, your girl was right. I always knew I was psychic, even though I can't predict the future, and like, I mean, that's my brag of the day, I guess. I do want to say, because I have a feeling this analysis review, or where the frick this video is, of season 8 is going to be vastly different than my reaction from season 8, because when I was watching season 8, I was like, oh my gosh, what the frick? Ah! Just being very emotional, if you couldn't tell. I don't know if it's because I feel things a lot more than I should, or if I'm just over dramatic. Honestly, it's probably both. But what I do is, like, after I watch a show, I wait a couple of days, let my brain process everything I just saw, you know, go on the internet and like see what everyone's discussing about. That's not proper grammar, but whatever. And you know, come to my own conclusion on how I feel about the season. And I have good things and bad things. First of all, I just want to say that I personally enjoyed the season. I really did. But do I think it's perfect? No, not at all. It's actually not. And there are definitely a lot of things that could have been fixed or done better. What I enjoyed most about the season, which is more of like my own preference, is like the entire time I've been watching Voltron, I want to know the why and the how and like the what, as to like the drive between like the antagonizing force against like, you know, Voltron the protagonist. And that was all on Minerva, and I knew it was that whole quintessence thing. They never really brought it up in like the earlier seasons and like later on with like Lotor and whatever, but I knew that's what it was about, and I was just like waiting for them to reveal it. And so like that's why I thought I enjoyed this season, because like that's essentially what the season was about, and I was like, this is what I wanted! So that's probably where my main focus was. I also wasn't really focused on the ships, which is where I know a lot of the drama comes from. Ooh! But for the most part, I did enjoy it. Like I said, it wasn't perfect, and I'm gonna get into more details about that. So, first up, let's just call out the elephant in the room, Lawrence. I know I've said in past videos, Lawrence isn't gonna be canon, and then I jokingly titled the video, LMAO, Lawrence is canon, and, whoops. I honestly don't care for a Lawrence. I've never cared for the ships. Like, I don't really care. It's not my drive. It's not my motivation to watch the show. I'm more of like storytelling and like character driven. Like, that's why I like, plus the aesthetics and like the art and stuff. That's why I watch the show for the first place. It's never been about the ships. I don't really care much for the ships because the ships, oh dear lord. But a Lawrence was canon. I didn't really care. I just thought, okay, this is a thing. This is what they're doing. But like, I felt like a Lawrence could have been stronger than how it was. You know what I mean? Like, okay, when you watch the show, clearly romance is a secondary nature. Like, they have everything else and they're just like, oh yeah, we gotta have a little romance in there, and then they just kind of like toss it in there as if like it's an afterthought. But like, you can't really do that, which kind of is like frustrating because like people, I know they've said before that their focus isn't on the romance, their focus is like on the war and stuff, but it's like romance and falling in love isn't something you can just put on pause, because sometimes you just fall in love with someone even if you don't want to, okay? Your heart does dumbish like that. You can't, I'm sorry, buddy. For me, the way I would have written a Lawrence, like if I was one of the headrunners of the show and I really wanted a Lawrence to be canon, the way I would have done it for this entire series, with given like the amount of episodes we have, because honestly, this show needs to be a lot longer for this story to make a cohesive story. For me, I would have kept season 1 and season 2 the same, where Lance is a little cocky boy where he's like, dab on them haters, oh, sharpshooter, woo! You know what I mean? And Alora is just like, no thanks, I'm gonna go fight this war. I would have kept it like that because that sets up like this is who they are now, and like, oh, there could be growth from this. So I would have kept that the same, but when Shiro disappears, I would have made it more like, oh, we gotta get serious, we don't know what we're doing, because Shiro was their only military man who had any knowledge whatsoever of starting a team or like knowing how to lead a team and like fighting in a war and knowing battle tactics and whatever, because I'm assuming the other people don't. Like, Alora was a princess, so she probably had to just deal with diplomacy and not know like how to fight. Like, she knew combat and stuff, but she didn't know like, you know, battle tactics. And like, I don't know if Karan did or not. Karan just kind of knows everything for the frick. But Shiro was their guy and he was gone, and so now they gotta like step it up, and now Keith's been chosen to be the leader, but Keith doesn't want to because Keith doesn't feel like he's up to the plate, and so Lance decided, okay, I gotta chill. We gotta take this seriously because Shiro's not here to like keep us in line and stuff, and Keith isn't feeling too confident. I'm gonna like help him and stuff. And like, I would have had Lance a little bit more like, we gotta get ish done, which he kind of was in season 3. And Alora was like, I'm a paladin, finally I can help more than what I was doing before. And so I kind of would keep that, but like their dynamic, more of them like training a little bit, or them having like conversations in like the background where it's like these two are like, you know, they're just like chatting idly. And then in season 4, I think this is when Keith left. Yeah, in season 4, I have it where these two are more bonding together, and they kind of did have like a quick bonding moment or whatever, where like there's that Altean sword thing. I think that was season 4. Was it season 4? Yeah, I think it was season 4. I have no idea. It's been a long time. Those two would have more moments of not just like dumb-ish where Lance says something that's like, oh, it's Lance, quirky, lover boy, goofball, yay. But like Lance of like, yeah, he's being a jokester or whatever, but he's like taking it seriously of like, okay, we're in this war effort or whatever. Shiro's back, but he's kind of being weird, but I won't talk about that. And like them like, you know, training together and like them having more moments of like on screen or whatever. On screen is the key point here. Plus, during the time of season 4, when they're spending time together, there could be moments where Lance is telling Alora a joke and Alora just like laughs and Lance just looks at her with the look, you know the look I'm talking about. And then there's a moment where like maybe they're fighting or they're like training and like Lance does something and Alora just looks at him and it's like the look, the freaking look, and they have like a moment where like the viewer can see, oh, maybe there's a thing here. Maybe they might. Then we carry on to season 5 when Lotor comes to play, I believe, right? Yes? I don't remember.
Ranch packet.
Listen.
Sometimes you just need ranch.
So season 5 is when Lotor joins the squad, and this is when Alora and Lotor are bonding more, and you know, the space squad doesn't trust him because Lotor's like, oh, let me join your team, and they're just like, how about we don't, because you know, you've been trying to kill us. And what I would have done with the whole Lotora situation is I would have kept jealous Lance, but I would not have had Alora kiss Lotor. I would have had maybe Alora be interested in Lotor, find him attractive because, you know, she's got a thing for those pointed ears, and definitely want to help Lotor, you know, become better and like do the whole help the Galra Empire go from like evil to good. I would have kept her bonding with Lotor because Lotor, we all know him now as a really tragic soul. She obviously was a positive in his life, so I would have kept her in his life and I would have like maybe had him interested in her, but I would not have had her kiss him. I would have had them maybe close enough where like it would have happened, but I wouldn't have actually had her done it. I'd maybe have her like confused about it, but I wouldn't have actually done it. And then with the whole mice situation where she finds out, I don't know. I maybe would have had like maybe some weird tension where like she just looks at him and looks away and all that stuff. And like I would have maybe she doesn't confront him about it. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I definitely would have kept Lance, you know, a little bit of like jealous or like a little bit like Lotor and stuff. And then I would have kept during season 6 and he betrays her. I would have still had Alora yeet the boy to Mars. And then I would have had the whole reconciling moment where like she feels like she's been played. She should have trusted herself. She should have saw this and she placed the blame on herself. And then Lance comforts her. I would have kept that because then that reassures her that she was right the first time when she thought she was falling in love with Lance. I would have kept that. And then in the next season when they're like going through space and stuff, I would have had them, I don't know, talk or something. I would have had them have like conversations or like them having moments where they're like touching or like grabbing each other or like, you know, wanting to help each other first, because there are moments where they nearly die in that season. So I would have had them had more moments of like closeness, if that makes sense. And then like I would have kept this scene where Alora wishes him luck and stuff, and then his, you know, and maybe they hug or whatever. I would have kept that and done that. And then season 7, I would have kept Lance asking her out, and then I would have changed it where like Lance isn't so down, because like the entire season he seems really sad, and I know he's sad because Alora's sad, because Lance seems to be the type of person where like he feels what you feel, which like I know there are people like that out there. I'm kind of like that. I know I have friends who are like that. I would have kept that. If Alora had to die, like if she had to die in order for the story to make sense, then like I would not have had Alora say goodbye, because I would have just made it instant, because those are the worst deaths, the deaths where they just are gone and you didn't have any anything to say, because then you're just like, wait, what? And then you just think of all the things left unsaid, and it makes more heartbreak for the recipient. So like, if Allura had to die, and like maybe they're fighting Hagar or whatever the frick, and there's like Hagar is fighting, and then Allura taps into her, I don't know, I'll tell you magic, and she does something to Voltron that causes, you know, to be gone, and then like Allura is like gone or whatever, and she like says goodbye or whatever, like, this is the only way to save all of his existence, and she leaves and she's dead. That would have been heartbreaking for everyone, and then Lance would just like, you know, break out crying or whatever. But I felt like that would be, I don't know, the whole goodbye thing, it was touching, but like when you think about it, it's just kind of like, well, she didn't say goodbye to Corinne, so what's the point? But if Allura didn't have to die, then let's not do that. But if she does have to die, then why does Lance need the old tan marks? He doesn't. He doesn't need, that was weird. I didn't understand that or how that even works. Okay, I guess we're just giving everyone we love tattoos now. And then I would not have had him still mourning. Like, one of the biggest things people are very angry about is obviously Allura dying because she is a person of color, and she's one of the only vocal colored girls in this show. And then also Lance being a Latino boy living a solitude life as a farmer. I know a lot of people were very angry about that. And I mean, we've known that Lance has had farming experience with the whole Colton teaching Corinne and Allura how to, like, you know, milk a cow or whatever. And so like, I'm assuming his family has a farm out in wherever the frick they live, which obviously is somewhere in Arizona, I'm guessing, because like that's where the garrison is, hypothetically. But I would not have had him live a long life where he's just living on his farm for the rest of his life and just growing the Juneberry flowers and like spreading Allura's love. I just thought that was weird. Like, that's what he spends his days doing, spreading the love of Allura. Like, the love of Allura was like, don't be mean to people and don't do dumbish, like conquering their planets, and also don't listen to evil space demons, because no. I honestly would have had Lance mourn for Allura, but then obviously move on and move forward and not rely solely on the love of Allura as himself. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but like, I would have had him grow in, because I know he wanted to be a pilot, so I would have had him maybe grow onto the garrison, and maybe he ends up taking Shiro's role, because we know Shiro retires, so like, I would have had him continue working hard to get to that captain position, and like, being like, oh, this is my time, and this is what I've learned, and this is the woman I've loved, and this is all the adventures I have, kids, hey! Like, that's how I would have done a Lawrence. Wow, I just spent 20 minutes talking about that. This is gonna be such a long video. The biggest problem with this show that definitely is observant in season 8 is that the story, it's like almost there, but like not quite. It's like they started to write something cool, like they got like 2 chapters in there and they're just like, all right, yeah, this is pretty sick. This could be a really great story, and then they just panicked. That's what I seem to be getting the impression of, and a lot of ish makes sense. Ooh, once you've seen the tea that was spelt, sis, because honey, after season 8 dropped, Twitter went off. Everyone who's ever worked with the Voltron crew, like interns or people who just quit, they started spilling all the drama, and it's proof that not only is the fandom a mess, but also the people behind the show, it was all a mess too. So that makes sense. The reason why this fandom was so toxic and so crazy and insane and nothing, everyone's confused, is because the freaking people who wrote the show didn't know what the frick they're doing, because apparently they would have different writers. There wasn't a consistency with the writing. They'd have different writers for every episode, which makes sense because you watch an episode where a character does something and it's just really random, and then you're just like, okay, and then like it's never brought up again, and like there's just, you know what I mean? And so that's the biggest issue, because there was never really agreement, because I know Lauren and Joaquin, they were always fighting for what they wanted to be canon, like the endgame ship. I know Lauren and a lot of other writers wanted Kalora to be canon, to stick with like the content, because in the original content, Allura and Keith are canon, but Joaquin DeSantos wanted Lawrence to be canon. There's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of, oh gosh. I know the entertainment industry can be pretty nasty. I know that for a fact. There's a lot of things in this show that definitely need a lot more explanation, specifically the Altane alchemy. I know for me, I just like a lot of information, because I need things to make sense. You can't just like throw things out there and just expect the audience to just be okay with it, because like that works, but you can't do that all the time. And that's one of the big frustrations I had, because like Allura would do something, or Hagar would do something, like somebody with some space magic, and I wouldn't know how they did it. I'd be like, how does that work? Can they just do that? that? Like, what's the limits of their arcane magic that they can do? Or they call it alchemy or whatever, but it's literally just magic. That's one thing that bothered me. There was never like any textbooks or no like rituals or like any kind of like what the frick it actually is. It was just, they kind of just did stuff. An example of needing more explanation about how things work is like how when Hagar is like opening up the rift to go into the other realities to find the reality where she's dead and like her family's alive so she can take her dead self's place. Yes. Is when like she's getting in there and they're trying to like stop it or they're trying to go through or whatever the frick. There's just an issue where they can't win, but then all the Balmeras come and we're just like, what the frick? I didn't understand that. I did not know where the frick they came from. But then Corinne's like, it's a Kavoldrum. I was like, where the frick is a Kavoldrum? If they had mentioned that earlier in the show when we first met the Balmera and Corinne is like, oh yes, the Balmera is so interesting. Like an example is like every so often in true times of danger, a huge quantity of Balmera from all across the universe can get together and summon to help power something. Like, if they had done that, then it would have shown that they actually knew what they were doing with the story. But like when they just brought it in, I was like, what the frick? Okay. Another example, because there wasn't consistency with the writing, which is why the ship wars were insane. Both parties are at fault here. Like, the creators behind the show are at fault for not being consistent with their writing, not sticking to one thing and not having characters being one way and not just going down, not having a plan that they're going to follow through. Because at times you watch the show and it feels like you're watching 3 different shows at once because the script changes so many times and you're just bewildered. So they're at fault for not sticking to one thing and panicking and just doing whatever the frick they just thought was like, oh, this sounds good, we can just do this. It's like, no. I do appreciate the show, the characters, the animation, Studio Mir. Bless y'all, you make some good quality art. Honestly, if my books ever become an animated series, I want y'all to do it because you guys are amazing. But the creators definitely need to be accountable of the mistakes they've done and not blame it on the fandom for going insane. But the fandom doesn't need to be accountable for at times going overboard and being dramatic because let's be real, guys, it's a show. Your livelihood does not depend on it. Like, I can understand being a consumer of media and like loving cartoons because that's me. I love watching content. I love any kind of stories that I can ingest and you know, absorb. And I understand how like you as a viewer, you want content for future generations to enjoy and kind of like push the bounds of like social constructs and stuff. But at the same time, we really don't have control over that, and the little control we do of how we view it, it does affect them, and they obviously panicked because everyone wanted this and they're just like, wait, we didn't have that in mind. We had this in mind. Frick, we gotta switch it so they're happy. But in the end, we're all just a mess at this point. I don't know. Maybe we'll be able to move on. I don't freaking know. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know what the frick I'm talking about. What is going on? I just, a lot of feelings. Everyone is so angry online. I have seen a lot of controversy with Shiro and Lance because I know they're both people of color and Shiro is also the LGBTQ plus representative. I can use words. And I know a lot of people were furious that they said Shiro finally found happiness as he left the battlefield. But a lot of people were saying that those are the Sheath people who were saying it, the Sheath stands. And I'm not even gonna get into that because I don't freaking care about ships, okay? Shiro's gay. What I appreciate about Shiro being gay for whatever the frick, he wasn't defined by being gay because a lot of the times you read stories where like you have all these characters and they're like, oh, there's this character, he's like this or she's like this, and like, oh, there's this character, they're gay. And like that's all they ever have. It's like there's not more to them. Where are all their other attributes, fam? But Shiro wasn't like that. When we met Shiro, we just knew him as Space Dad, the guy who was patient and kind and compassionate and fought and was really smart, who would go to the ends of the earth to get his team back home to Earth. That's how we knew Shiro, and it wasn't until later on that it was revealed, oh yeah, by the way, did we forget to mention that he's gay? That's what I appreciated about him being the rep. I know a lot of people were furious when Adachi, whatever the frick you want to call it, Shiro and Adam, that didn't come to play when season 7 happened and it's like, okay, Adam died. Oh, yikes. People were mad because they assumed we get to meet Shiro's boyfriend and maybe they'll get a rekindling and they'll get together, which that might have been better than like finding out he's dead or whatever. I don't freaking know. I feel like that situation was all ended badly, and I've talked about that before. I'm not gonna get into that because I have 20 other billion things I need to talk about, and this is already a freaking long video. I think that's what the issue with Shiro was, with them saying he finally found happiness off the battlefield. Happiness isn't only found in romantic love. You can find happiness in your friends and your family and hobbies or whatever. You can find happiness in so much more than just in one other person that you're romantically interested in. Does that make sense? I think it does. I don't entirely know. I will not be surprised if this entire video, like season 8 and the rest of Voltron, is a mess. The controversy around Lance is back to that whole farmer thing because he's Latino, he's Cuban. That's the whole thing. That's what a lot of people were saying. It's like, you're gonna make him live the rest of his days as a farmer, which, like, I understand the frustrations with that, because then that basically brings down Lance to more than he could be, because, I don't know, I feel like all the other paladins and everyone else, their lives, they flourish. Like, Paige and her family, they ended up creating some of the best tech or whatever, and then Hunk ended up being a diplomat with his culinary team or whatever. And then Keith, he was nominated to be the Galway leader, but then he's like, no. But he's still going on the mission of helping people, finding space where they can feel comfortable, which, like, makes sense for him, because he's always been someone who's always felt like an outcast. And to be honest, I feel like Keith has had one of the best arcs in this entire show, because he's been from one into another, and you can see it's very explicit, his development, which I liked. He had a pretty decent ending, and then it comes down to Lance, who he's just living the days as a farmer, mourning over Laura, which is like, I don't want him to be sad for the rest of his life, because, like, we see him and it's been like years after, you know, they formed Voltron or whatever, because frick. So that's the whole controversy about that. But I mean, even if there was like all this negative-ish about season 8, there are some good things. Like, for example, the Holt family and their dynamic is so cute. I loved it. Every time Colleen and Katie interacted, I thought it was great, because it just seems like something a mother and a daughter would do. And I just love their family. The Holt family is so pure. I love them. I love them. I love them. I want to have dinner with them. I want to be friends with Katie or Matt. I don't freaking care. They seem really great people. Love them. Bebe the dog is even fantastic. I love the whole family. They were just precious this entire season. Lotor deserved better. I mean, they all did, but I told y'all I really appreciated the backstory aspect of this show, but when we got to see the birth of Lotor and him as a child just wanting a mom and just wanting to talk to his dad, and like, he just wanted love. When you get to see all that, and then the part where, like, you see him older and he actually, what got to me was him being on that planet where he wanted to, like, merge with them and their technology to grow, and then Zarkon was like, no, they're under beings, and then, like, Zarkon burned the world and Lotor was, like, devastated. I thought when he told Alora, I didn't trust him, because I knew Lotor was a very manipulated person from the moment we met him, just the way that he controlled the masses and whatever to, like, you know, please them and please him and stuff and get them on his side. I knew that he was a manipulative guy, and I didn't trust him just because I usually vote for the protagonist. I mean, he's a great villain. I do think he's a great antagonist, but he definitely is a tragic soul, and I feel like with just a little changes in his life, he could have been so happy. He wasn't necessarily a bad guy, he just misguided, and it didn't help that he had the quintessence running through him, because the quintessence makes you go insane, which, yeah. I love Dad Zarkon. When we saw, back to the flashback, when we saw Zarkon so excited he was gonna have a kid, he's gonna be a dad, I was like, frick, oh my gosh. I just want that as a show. Like, just give me Dad Zarkon raising Lotor as a single father, make it a sitcom even, I don't freaking care, you know, with, like, him hanging out with King Alfor every so often, and then, like, you know what would be great, because I don't think anyone said this, but, like, I've been drawing fan art for it because I love this idea, but Aunt Alora to baby Lotor, that would be so cute. Like, give me that. That's the content I want, but do it right. The animation and the art and this music, it's always fantastic. It's always well done, and it was very aesthetic this season. I loved that so much. It was phenomenal. That's one of the things that I just appreciate as, like, a visual person and as an artist or creator or whatever the frick. I love that so much. Kincaid, though, honestly, the MFVs, like, we didn't get to see them a lot, but, like, whenever we did, they were just, like, great, and I loved their whole dynamic. I do kind of wish there was more screen time for James Griffin. I wish there was more of them. Also, I have a question. What happened to the Alkarians? Like, they left, they evacuated the planet, but then we never saw them again. Where did they go? Okay, alright. I feel like it could have been a lot better if they just took control of the show, agreed on some things, compromised, and stuck with one script and not constantly changed writers and stuff, and had more explanations, because a lot of the time stuff happens where we don't know why. Like, the science stuff I guess makes sense, but when they actually go into the magic aspect, like in season 8, there's a part where Pidge is, like, devastated because Alkarian is dead, and she really bonded with those people, and then, like, she can see that when it was going down, which, like, I didn't understand how that worked, but I just assumed it was because of her connection with the Green Lion and her connection with Alkarion. The planet was like a computer, kind of, and it had, like, a backup memory, and maybe that's what is happening. I don't freaking know, but it's explanations like that that need to be explained. I know know a lot of people, they really liked it or they really hated it. I enjoyed the season. After I've processed it all, I definitely see the flaws in it, and I'm really sad to like see it end because I love the characters. I'm gonna miss Alora. She's not dead in my heart though. I love her so much. If it were me writing the show, I would have changed a lot of things for the better, honestly. At the end of the day, it's a story. Don't rush everything. Like, they had a specific like 78 episodes, but honestly, in order for this story to make sense, I think I said this earlier, it needed to be a lot longer. Like, somebody dropped a comment on like one of my videos recently where it's just like, this show needed to be at least 120 episodes, which like, yeah, it honestly needed to be longer for it to make sense. Yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
But wait, there's more. Here are some last minute thoughts I had while I was editing this video.
The whole Galra girl gang thing, they brought that in season 8, but they didn't fully complete it. Like, they brought Zethard in that kind of started to give her a redemption arc with the other girls. That didn't really go anywhere. I mean, we did see at the end with Keith's like life after the war and stuff that they were part of the Blade of Marmora, but that's it. And it feels like a loose end that they just try to quickly tie up, which is like, you could have done that better, but okay. At the end where we get to see Hunk and he's running his whole restaurant or whatever the frick, we've always known that Hunk has a thing for food and that he does like cooking and he enjoys a lot, but it doesn't make sense to me as to why, if his dream has always been to be a professional cook, why did he go to the garrison in the first place? Because he's an engineer at the garrison. I don't understand why he would go unless his parents made him go, but his parents don't seem like the type of people who would force him to do something he doesn't like. His family is very open and understanding, so I don't understand the point of him going to the garrison to be an engineer, to work in the military, like to go into space travel, if he's just gonna end up working in the food industry. Does that make sense? I'm also realizing we never got to know what Keith's dad's name was. Like, we learned Alora's mom's name, but she didn't do anything. It's like, we've been more emotionally attached to Keith's dad, but we still don't know his name. What the frick? Why? Another thing that they should have done is that they shouldn't have made Alora sad in only season 8. They should have had it sprinkled throughout the entire show so that it was clear that she missed Altea. Also, was I the only one confused on that whole astral plane fight? Like, why the frick? It was so unclear what was going on as they were traversing Minerva's mind. Like, it just looked like another part of space. I doubt everyone's brain looks like space, if you know what I mean. That whole episode was just confunneling, and I was just bewildered the entire time. Like, she trapped the souls of the paladins of old in her mind. Like, how the frick does that work? Why the frick did anyone stop Laura when she was torturing Zarkon? Like, I get that she was under the influence of the entity and stuff, but like, you clearly saw that she was putting Zarkon through pain, and like, no one said anything. They just stood by and watched her do it, and it's like, that seems totally out of character for all the paladins. I don't understand, like, what the frick? Also, does it feel like Alora and Keith switched lines? Because in season 8, Keith did a lot of the motivating to get the team together, but usually it's Alora who does that. I don't know, am I the only one who just thinks that? Also, how did Minerva manage to kill over an infinite amount of realities? Because there is an alternate reality for an alternate reality for an alternate reality. There's alternate realities for every reality. There should be an infinite amount, and yet she did that in under 5 minutes. Like, that just sounds a little pretentious, guys. They should have done something, because Alteans are life givers, that they just quintessence all around. They should have done something where Alora was going to like give up her life, but then Voltron's like, no, we're gonna help, and they gave up pieces of their life to stop it. That way everyone lives, and they all have their fun little picnic thing in the sunset 1 year later, and Altea's there, and oh my gosh, that would have been great. That would have been fine. Everyone would have been happy and alive. That would have been nice. Y'all should have done that instead, and it still works kinda. Also, frick, it's been predicted Alora was going to die since season 1, and I will tell you why. One thing that always bothered me back in season 1 was how the Erusians addressed Alora as the lion goddess, which is strange because they've never met Alora. Alora has been in a cryogenic sleep for 10,000 years, which means she's never set outside the kingdom. The castle has been sitting on Eris undisturbed for 10,000 years. Yeah, sure, the Black Lion is in their basement, but other than that, how would they know? As soon as the castle was moving, they sent out a scout to see what the frick is going on, and when the scouts met Alora, the scout addressed her as the lion goddess. And how does season 8 end? At the very end, oh, it's Alora in the cosmos, sleeping like a goddess, and the lions fly to her. Wow. I hate absolutely everything. So at the end of the day, Voltron, the fandom was a mess, the show was a mess, and honestly, I'm just... yeah. Listen, I appreciate this show for so many reasons. I was thinking about doing a video where I talk about like how I'm thankful for the show and the characters, but like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I've been emotionally drained from all the comments and the tweets and everything from this show. I do remember happy times. This show has given me a lot of opportunities in my channel and in my life and in my storytelling, really. I remember when I was finishing the season, I was so, I don't know, inspired. I just really wanted to work on my Project Kingdom story for some reason. I don't know why, I just I just wanted to. I didn't though, because I have to work on another story before I do that. But the show has given me a lot of things that I'm thankful for, and it's taught me a lot of things, and it's introduced a lot of great characters, and it's done a lot for me, and I appreciate that so much. It's like bittersweet that the show is ending. I think it's for the best though, because I'm just tired at this point. I'm tired with the fandom's ish. If anything, future people who make future shows and future content can look back and see the mistakes that this show has done and the ramifications of it, and then be like, okay, so we're not gonna do this. That's one way to look at it when it comes down to it. And yes, I know I don't have my antlers. I left them at home, but it's like a Christmas tree. Aren't my friends so decorative? I'm at their place right now. We're having a Christmas party the day I'm filming this. We love a productive multitasking queen. Not really. I've used 3 memory cards to finish this video. This video is so long. I am so sorry. This is the end of Voltron. I had to get all my feelings out for the most part. You know what's iconic? My friends, they cut up their term papers into snowflakes and they put them on the wall. We love that. So I'm off. I've got places to go, people to meet, worlds to conquer. Until next time, forever and always, Nadia. Okay, bye.